try.
crop for you guys.
Forage crop.
We can try it,
Yeah.
on that irrigated field. I would entertain it. It's just a pond pivot, so it's kind of
if your pond's full,
limited.
slap some beans.
it's
in
glorified
and
dry land is what we call it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll just be a game time decision.
go. Yep.
Gotcha.
All right, real quick on that maturity for your soybeans. What if you guys were to double crop? What maturity of soybeans would you follow up
Full
with?
season.
Full season. Like, what's full season for you?
3.9,
3.9.
3.7.
Okay, I was gonna say we gotta make sure we get that right.
Okay, all right. Well,
I don't even plant double crops that short.
I would say every soybean that gets put in our area ranges from 2.7 to 3.9. That's about as high as you get.
You don't have you don't do fours?
There's some. I planted
4Os.
some this year,
Yep.
but they weren't any better than the.
Just made the season that much longer.
I was
probably.
irrigating until September 20th. I think. I don't think I'm going to combine these till Christmas.
The reason I ask, like this year is my first year. I've been helping Dad for a long time. We've been in the 4.7 to 4.9 range.
Wow.
And that's where we're at. Yeah. I dabbled in some 4.3s a couple years ago, and I liked it. And I did some 4.1s. I'm like, man, this is all right.
Well,
there's a couple really good 4.1 numbers.
It's just
4.2s.
It's just all perspective, right? Because my in-laws farm in North Dakota, and they plant beans that are grouped 0.00s.
I've always wanted to try just
0.00s.
I know,
just
like
throw
a
some
four,
zeros
like
out
4
there.
passes of like a point.
Just to
something.
see what happens. I just want to see what it
Cut
does.
this sucker in June.
I mean, they may not get higher than this red solo cup,
Yeah.
But
But here's the thing: you watch these guys in Minnesota. I watch the Millennial Farmer.
Yep.
I like Zach. I've never met Zach. I hope I get to meet him someday. But he's planting beans, not that far from when I am,
right.
and he's cutting beans, not that far from when I am.
Same in North Dakota.
How does a triple? How does a
Yeah.
point something and a 4.9 have this?
Is that just?
It's all just daylight.
Sunlight
Yep,
and
daylight.
It's
heat
just
units.
sunlight, daylight.
Sunlight and heat units. It's got to be.
Yeah.
So
After the summer solstice. I
Okay,
think.
seed guys.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's roll with it.
when I was in college in Beatrice, we lived in a duplex, whatever. So outside of town, there was this little bean field next to the industrial plant, and there's little street lights.
Streetlights.
And there's always a little half circle about like this little cutout here that would stay green and never matured.
Yep.
Because they were just always had light. It never got night day. Maybe everybody else knows that, and that
So the
It's neat to see
secret to
that.
high
But
yielding
it's kinda
soybeans is stadium lights around your field. Is that what we're? And then just shut them off when you
No.
want them to.
Well,
soak
we
in.
Do we
Sure,
go
mature.
in? Hey, we could get a USDA loan for lights. Green lights.
Leave them
green
off.
energy.
Green energy.
green energy.
baby.
There you
Green
go.
Save the
light.
farm.
That's right.
Protect our farms.
Protect our farms.
Cheers, boys.
Yes.
So leave them off until you start setting pods, flowering.
Right.
Kick them on.
Kick 'em on.
Let it cook. Let it cook. When you're ready for them to start dying down, back off.
I'm curious to see if the yield advantage is like they're raising 70 bushel beans up in Minnesota.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
With a triple O. What if we plant a triple O down here?
Right.
Run your grow lights like we're talking.
It's just like you said.
This is so turning into a Rogan podcast. Our grow lights on our plants.
But it just, I was listening to the last podcast, you just have to observe.
Yeah.
When you're driving by and driving your pickup, you're like, those beans under those lights, they never mature. They just stay green. It's just, but it's, you're right. When you just have to watch the environment around. I mean, things are going to tell you what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have to be paying attention.
See, I think
The best thing to see in your field, someone once told me, is your shadow.
Yeah.
I like that.
What's the saying?
best fertilizer for a plant is
is
a
a
farmer's
farmer's
footprints in the field.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, thing is, my tough thing for irrigation is knowing when to turn that pivot on, especially if you're in tighter water restriction areas. We don't have pivots.
Right.
But I've been around guys' farms enough now that I've, climbed on pivots, almost got killed by a rattlesnake on a pivot, things like that. That's a little blown out of proportion. It just sat there and looked at me.
Yep.
But
That'd be the next thing.
knowing when to water, and there's a lot of tech coming out.
Oh, yeah.
So it's,
No, it's so big controversial, in the water
yeah.
when your neighbor is across the road.
That's when you need
When
water.
he turns his on, go turn yours on.
Well,
But for Jake and I's area, it's coming. We're going to be restricted.
Yeah, they were flying the
Yeah.
all last summer. They had the helicopters with the big. It's like a big hoop on it, and it monitors groundwater levels.
I don't know how I feel about that.
And they were flying everywhere last summer.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like you just had Snapchat, send it to Ethan, and I'll be like, water restrictions incoming. Here they come. Like this is step number 1.
Yep. But the first
measure
thing,
what we got.
we're still going to be 4 years out or 5 because, we don't even have meters on everything now.
Nope.
Sure.
It takes a little bit of time just to do that. And
You're
then,
gonna
and
have
then they got to have boots on the ground to try to police it all. I mean, I'm not saying we don't need it because we probably do, but it's going to be interesting. Time will tell to see how that plays out.
It comes back to that talk of it's my farm.
Yeah.
I own it, but Gabe and I, shout out to Gabe, have had this talk about it's probably not such a bad thing because there's a lot of overwatering that
There
happens
is.
in our area.
And I'm
There is a
probably
lot.
one of them. I'm just
There's
as
a lot.
guilty as
It's
anybody.
it's easy to get that way.
is.
Because we know our weather patterns and we know when things turn to a point.
Turn it on.
We've been behind.
Yep.
Every year we get behind on the wells that we have versus the weather we have.
Now-
And you're playing catch up. So if a guy's like, well, if I can get out ahead of this, but what you're doing is creating inefficiency.
The funny part is they could give us a restriction, and Jake and I both have some marginal wells, and Jake and I both got some really good wells. They could give us, just say they gave us 10 inches or 8 or whatever. We could turn on a little well in March and shut it off in November, and we'd still be at only 6 or 7 because it just don't pump that much. But those are the wells that get overpumped.
Yeah.
The wells that pump 800 gallon on March 1st and December 1st, those are the ones that you can just...
You could spin them in 2 days, put on 3/4 of an inch,
Yeah.
and then let it rest for the next week.
Right.
Or for a week, and then fire it back
So you're
up. 'cause you can
talking
get around
about the
quick.
value of an efficient well instead of
Big
a,
wells make
And
a
we
big
are hit
difference.
and miss in our area. You might be right here and you might be on a gold mine, and your neighbor literally a few feet away, you're just going to miss it. So in our area, how we find water initially is the witching.
So so if you could have hit a perfect pivot, what's that look like? All the water in the world, run it fast, and instead of trying
I like about 7 or 8 tenths every
Yep.
time I spin
We're
it.
the same on that. I mean,
Okay.
3/4 of an inch.
okay.
And if on the good wells, I mean, that's a
And if we're
2-day
really
pass.
cranking and the forecast is dry, I will sometimes make 2 or 3 continuous runs.
Let 'em go.
and then shut it off for a couple days.
Okay.
And then just walk out ahead of the pivot, behind the pivot with a
How
probe.
fast can you make that lap?
2.5, 3 days
2.5, 3 days.
on a 750 or 800 gallon well.
On how many acres?
130 is about what a pivot circle
Full
is. About
circles,
130 acres.
135, figure the end gun by the
Right.
time it
Okay.
goes off and goes around. Yeah.
128 to 130, 2 or 3 or 5.
So 130 acres.
Yeah, 130.
Gotcha.
acres.
So 3 days to make a full lap
Yep.
of a 3/4 inch on the 130 acres.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So-
you figure so as the more
About
water you put
40,
on,
45 acres a day.
yep.
It's usually, what's that come out to be, about 65 hours, something like
Yeah.
that.
But
It's real
so
close to that.
putting this in the terms, the more water you put on, so you start cranking up towards an inch, the slower it goes. Well, for me, and me and you have talked about this a bunch. If you wait to start watering, you're putting on an inch. Now it takes 4 days to come around. Think about the other half of that field.
Exactly.
It's probably getting stressed past the point you want
Right.
it to. So by the time you get
sure.
to there, and now
You're always trying to
now
play
you
catch up.
reverse it over here.
You
so
are.
You're
we
to that
like
reaction
shorter,
point.
faster passes,
Just keep it,
and just keep it
Yeah.
even.
Keep it running.
Sometimes, irrigation is made to supplement. It is not made to make the whole crop. We are just trying to get to the rain.
by
Yes.
the time to the rain.
A half inch of rain is better than 8 tenths with a pivot.
100%.
Every irrigator
100%.
I've
Yep.
talked to says that. They're like, if I could turn that pivot off and it rusts in the ground,
Yep.
and I could just get rain, I'd take that every time.
The only thing worse than having irrigation is not having irrigation.
Cuss it all summer.
That's us. Like we're sitting here burning up like, God, I'd love to have a pivot. And then it's raining and you guys are digging pivots out
it's
and
terrible.
whatever. We're like,
Covered
hard
in
to
mud.
don't have a pivot.
We got pivot
Our
right now.
tracks have been so deep the last couple of years. It is just mind blowing.
Well, they got so deep. Was it? It was the year before. Last year
Why
wasn't
is
as
that?
bad.
Because we make too many laps.
Yeah,
You know,
it's going around. So
every pass it goes a little deeper.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So 2 years ago, it got so deep that it started. We had how many flat tires? Me and you were just fighting. Well, it was getting.
All
it was
you
going-
guys did was I got Snapchats
And
of
It got so
anytime
deep
you're
it was
fixing a
ripping the
pivot,
valve
it's always
stems
in the
off.
mud.
yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
It's always muddy.
So it was
Always
just
muddy.
it got so deep it was to the point where it was catching the valve stems in the pivot track every time. It was just ripping them off. You'd lose the tire and then you pivot stuff.
I've had them just get high centered. They just sit, on the A frame. because they've dug a.
It just dug a trough out.
Yeah, so
We
deep.
probably just sound like whiners right now.
Well,
they're irrigating ground. It's so
Just hit a
awful.
button and
It's
go in.
so wet. I buried a pivot. And then sit here going, I might overwater a little bit,
Yeah.
but
Guys, if you've liked the information that you've seen so far, go ahead and check out the full-length podcast on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe there. It's also on all the major podcast platforms. We're constantly dropping info and more content on all the social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Check it out for a lot more content.